It's not the dumb. We're doing it live.
That's right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Highline Sessions. I am your host, Alina Doran, founder and CEO of Highline Leadership. Today, my guest is none other than Brian Wallace. Brian is the founder and president of NowSourcing, an award-winning infographic design agency. It has been ranked the number 2 top contender top content marketing agency in the world, ranked out of more than 31,000 companies by Clutch. His agency helps brands all around the globe. Names like Adobe, Forbes, Google, Microsoft, Pizza Hut, SalesForce. It's a very extensive list. Countless others turn their most complex ideas into simple visual narratives that grab attention, drive results. His work has been featured in a slew of outlets, including the New York Times, Forbes, Mashable. Brian is also a Google Small Business Advisor. He spent 5 years on the South by Southwest Advisory Board, and he is the creator of the Innovate Summit, multi-day gatherings spotlighting breakthrough thinkers across business, tech, culture, and having personally attended 2 summits at this point, I can tell you firsthand that they're movements. They're not just events, and they're kind of life-changing. So behind these incredible accomplishments and accolades, there's a powerful story. Brian walked away from traditional tech career and decided to build a company from scratch with his wife by his side. And what started as a bold reinvention is now one of the most respected agencies in the content world. And so today, Brian and I are diving into why visual thinking is your biggest edge in business, how to simplify without losing the substance, and what it takes to tell stories that actually land in a world that is as noisy and distracted as our world today. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Alina. That's quite the intro.
Right? It's all true.
Well, thank you.
It's amazing. Thank you for joining me.
When it's true, right?
Right. Absolutely. And, when I was thinking about visual thinking, and I talk about influence a lot, and I work on influence a lot with folks thinking about influence through visuals. And I learned some facts. So intuitively, we know that visual is extremely powerful, more powerful than text. I have some facts for folks tuning in.
Ooh.
Did you know that our brains process visuals 60,000 times faster than text? 60,000 times faster. So that makes me wonder, like, how much leadership communication gets lost just because we rely on words instead of showing. Right? There's another one that blew me away, and then we'll get right into it. People remember 65% of what they see compared to just 10% of what they hear. So if we're not using visuals, we're basically expecting for people to forget vast majority of our message. Mm-hmm. So really powerful stuff, and glad to have you here.
It's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Yeah, same. So you've had this incredible inflection point at some point in your career where you left corporate life and started your own agency. I'm wondering, what was the impetus?
What was the impetus of starting an agency? So first off, anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, first, let's dissuade you from being an entrepreneur because it's hard. We're not going to sugarcoat it. That's somebody else's show. Get out of here.
That's right.
Coddle you and make you feel nice to put you out of your depth. But more to the point, if someone doesn't have the ability to sell and market, they're out of the game and understand financials. So, and this is sort of disturbing, and I think it's a subject that's not spoken about enough. Being an entrepreneur is a far cry from being a subject matter expert. You can be both, but just because you're a subject matter expert doesn't mean that you should be in business for yourself. There's lots of people that might operate well as an entrepreneur inside of the belly of some large corporation with all the tools and resources and lots of things that they don't have to think about. But being an entrepreneur means that your name is in lights one day and then you're the janitor the next. And sometimes it's the same day. And sometimes it might be at the same time. So you just have to be there for the ups and downs, and you really have to love what you do because there's plenty of ups and downs. We live in a pretty uncertain world. Every year, it seems like we have things that are once a lifetime. Pick your poison as to anything that you read into that message. I'll leave that to your imagination. So you have to be ready for those things. You have to be in a place where you can be incredibly resilient.
So 5 easy steps to entrepreneurship is what I'm hearing, Brian.
Yeah, right. 5 gigantic mountainous steps. So why? I think that there were a lot of things that I wanted to do and communicate that I felt were not being realized inside of a corporation, but also just remember on the tech side. So I wasn't really into marketing professionally yet. I'd developed a decade of tech experience. But I found that I really was good at communication. And I feel like tech by itself often is sort of a disregarded art of communication. I think that if people understood it better, people who are great communicators would have a wonderful career in tech. But sometimes I felt like all of my opinions weren't necessarily wanted or needed. So what am I doing there, right? And along comes this wonderful thing called social media. Well, I guess it was wonderful back then. I think we've taken a few missteps and doom scrolls and losing parts of our brain to it. And now we can't just say that the sky is blue without everybody going for each other's throats. But I think a lot of that has changed a bit just because they figured that you get more dwell time when people argue. But people can go watch The Social Dilemma on their own day. It's not that kind of commercial. So we started as a social media agency way back in the day, just about 19 years ago. And there weren't a lot of people doing that then. We were working for some really cool stuff back in the day. We were, I think, the first place to do social for John Deere. We were working with Jay-Z when he was selling his clothing brand into a conglomerate. So there's a lot of stuff going on back then. But social was rising and changing so rapidly, it seemed very obvious that you had to pick some kind of specialty or subspecialty to stand out from the noise. Because I know everybody always wants to make noise in the world, but you actually need to make signal. People have to remember you, not just that you talk a good game, but they have to have something in their frontal lobe. Because like you said, nobody's really paying attention. And we have limited time to understand and appreciate and store that for recollection later. So you can leave a wonderful mark in someone's brain, but if it's just, oh, Brian's that guy that we have nice conversations with, instead of, and he's very useful because he does X, that's significant. So just saying, I do social media, what would that even mean in today's world? It could be anything. Right. So back in the day, there was a site called dig.com, and it was basically like Reddit is today. And there were 100 curators of the web, individual people, not billion-dollar companies, that would take a story, curate it, put it on the front page, and then everything would crash. So just incredible amounts of traffic, press attention, whatever. I was one of these people. I saw 2 people before us doing infographics in the entire world, and pretty sure we were the third one because we were very good at doing visuals and storytelling and just having this knack of getting into press, making things viral, getting things to be spoken about, understanding trends, but not just from a pure business perspective, but a creative perspective. And an infographic really does a good job kind of riding the line between the left and right side of the brain and you like stats, depending on which marketer stat you like to quote. Some people say that humans have the attention span of a goldfish, which is 8 seconds. I don't know what kind of psychopath is sitting there with like a timer looking at a goldfish wondering this, but whatever, this is where we get stats from, and this is the world. But it's better than saying the sky is blue and having people hate you for it. Other people say that you have 2.7 seconds before we lose somebody on a website. But I don't believe in these stats. I think that there is something more interesting at play than we think about, which really works right into the tapestry of these visual pieces. And that is as follows. How is it that we can have 2.7 seconds, 8 seconds, It's not that big a difference. If I just sat here awkwardly, 8 seconds would be a really long time. But aside from that, it's trivial. But how is it that we have this short attention span, but then something, whatever, Happy Gilmore 2 comes out on Netflix and everybody binge watches the whole thing from start to finish, whether you like it or not? How can we sit there and waste a weekend binge watching an entire series of whatever you like? Because the brain has a crap filter. And that's what we don't talk about enough. We obsess over the small stats, but we don't think about how do we jump over that chasm of a divide of the very small attention to get permission for more attention into the messages that we're trying to have stand out about and above the noise.
So insightful. And I love,
I can't just say, I just like marketing, but
I just love, right. It's incredible. And it's absolutely true, right? There's such a short span. It's two extremes, at each end of a range. And you just used a very specific word that caught my attention, getting permission.
Yes.
Permission to engage deeper. Can you say more about that?
Sure. So I think that there is a spectrum of understanding. Okay, here's our spectrum. And on one side, we've got marketing, and we've got this other side, which is advertising. Mm-hmm. It could be either one.
Right.
I don't have better props for that.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Left hand, right hand works perfectly.
Okay. So on the one side, we've got marketing, and that's what we're talking about today. So to talk about that, let's talk about what we're not talking about. So advertising is, you show up with some ads, you go on a platform like Google or Meta, you pay to show up for certain criteria. Mm-hmm. And then as long as the person has whatever criteria, or if it's just a broad stroke thing, an ad shows up, whether they want it or not. It might be really funny. It might be really shocking. It might be really boring. It could suck. It could be great. But it's a chance that they're going to look at it, and maybe they're going to click, and maybe they're going to have an action. But marketing is a little bit more like Inception. So we watch all these people that are marching around in the world, and they're like, nobody can tell me what to do. I'm my own man, and I have all my strongly held opinions that I relentlessly have everybody suffer through on Facebook and other wonderful social platforms. And isn't that nice? But here's the thing. Do people actually know how the opinions that get in their mind take root to begin with? And I would argue that they largely don't, because incredibly smart marketers put it in there, planted a seed, walked away, and let you think that that seed that germinated was your own thought. So you can uproot a person's understanding. See also the creepy story of breakfast cereal. There's entire industries that are based on almost nothing, just because people agree that this is a thing, that they don't necessarily have value or provenance. It's a fascinating art. So having a power of persuasion to give people better choices than they know today helps people change their mind. And that's what I mean by the permission.
Planting that seed that you talk about, it also sounds like, expert parenting. Like, this was your idea.
That's like God tier marketing, right?
Right. It's God tier marketing. This is a great idea, and it's your suggestion. And if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. I love it. I love it. So
awesome.
Your company was ranked number 2 globally. Yeah, I'm
sorry about that. Maybe right? I'll see myself out. I'll come back when
you'll see yourself out. Number 2.
We have been number 1 on that list. So
you've been number 1.
Uh-huh.
I think the key for me is that you're being
top
measured
5 out of thousands of things. That's still pretty notable.
Out of 31,000 agencies. 31,000 agencies. So you've been ranked consistently at the very, very top.
That's right. And this is even like, if you just Google, like, what are the top content marketing agencies or the top infographic agencies? We're constantly showing up in the mix. And that's very powerful, because all sorts of companies across the entire world, large and small, are checking into this. Yep.
Absolutely. So what I'm wondering about, and I'm curious about, is everyone's in the space and everyone is doing marketing. Right. What is it that you're doing differently that they're not?
So I would say that specialization is a real thing. I think that too many people think that they're impressing people with stuff that sounds good in their head, but when you actually try it on as the potential buyer is not as impressive as you think. So if a person says that they're full service marketing agency, now I'm not trying to give you crap, everybody in the world, do what you want, disclaimer. I'm not here to hurt everybody's feelings primarily, but sometimes it comes across. Sometimes I'm an acquired taste for some people. But if the average small business that doesn't necessarily understand all the stuff that a marketer's doing hears that there's a full service marketing, blah, 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 what does that actually mean? So we have world-class expertise in a very narrow lane of traffic. How can everybody be good at all sorts of marketing? Like, how many forms of marketing are there? Dozens? Hundreds? I'm actually not even sure. If you actually cooked up different specialties and subspecialties about everything under the sun when it comes to marketing and every nuance, it's a lot of stuff to put into one head or endless cubicles of people sitting in giant corporate towers. It's a lot to do. So if we're being honest, a lot of companies that are small businesses, they're going to say that they're full service. And I want to run from that statement. It just means that they want to say that to sound like they're going to be good at it. And this isn't the throw shade show. It's to understand what this actually means behind the veil.
Right.
So let's say we're good at infographics, but then somebody else is also saying that they're great at ads and email marketing and influencer marketing and B2B and of every industry for everything. How can that be true? So that means that they're probably mediocre at best, hoping that people don't notice, or they're just calling guys like me to go service the stuff, and maybe they're referring a bunch of stuff. So to me, that seems a little bit dishonest, and I don't like that. So I think that we're very, very clear in our thesis and our focus and our results. I think that a lot of marketers get a bad rap because they price gouge for a very long time. We like to do projects and specific tours of duty that we fit a certain cadence to come into the lives of companies when it's appropriate. So does that mean that we're the largest company in the world? No, but that's not the point. People seek specialists in a world of access. And I think that that matters a lot. And people find that the specific line of business that we do, regardless of industry, because we service all sorts of stuff, large and small, is incredibly hard to do. And a lot of people say, okay, we loved your stuff and we were going to work with you. And then we're like, oh, but we know it's going to be a bunch of money. So we just figured we would go in-house or we would try our agency. And we tried this for 6 months and we beat our head against the wall and it cost too much money and we never launched it and it didn't do anything. And can you help us? It's like, of course, that's like a ton of people's stories. So it's a very narrow lane where we really value excellence in what we're doing.
It's not a one-stop shop, right? It's a car wash and we'll do your taxes. And we'll also, we do heart surgery on Wednesday.
And ask yourself that, like, would you do that with anything in life? It might sound good, but that's just not how things work.
Right. It's a beautiful slogan. And then once customers come, clients come face to face with reality, they see the substance.
Yep. I see we have a comment here, by the way, if we want to flash on screen.
Oh, yeah. What is the comment? Ooh, Inception. Whitney says, Inception, evil marketing scientists at work.
I mean, in fairness, Whitney, thank you for your comment. We're not all evil. I'd like to think that some of us are on the side of good, or at least we're telling ourselves that we are.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I mean, speaking of side of good, you've worked with huge brands and you've worked with smaller brands. So
that's right.
When you're working with Adobe, FedEx, SalesForce, what do the major brands understand about attention and simplicity that maybe the smaller companies might miss?
Sure. I would say that a large company is a different ask than a small company.
How so?
Let's talk about the differences of how we help them. That's a great question. So for a large company might be overly reliant on a press release that news is not going to cover. They might write it in a kind of a bland format and just lose the plot. So whatever they're trying to come across to the world might just be missed. It's not to say that like they don't get any other press or PR, but I'm just saying a lot of the times the way that they move doesn't necessarily fit this kind of visual clarity and creativity for a long form masterpiece that the press can go pick up. So if they're relying too much on press releases and stuff like that, they're not going to have the kind of results that they want. So let's say they go out to the media and then the media looks at it and says, big brand, dinner is served. And then they just sick all their ad people on it. So they could pay their way through on the advertising side. But then again, it's not just there because people want to read it. It's there because they paid a giant wheelbarrow of money. Whereas with us, we can come in and come there for a very specific thing. Let's say they're launching a new product, a new service. They've got something that they're doing that's really just revolutionary, although people use that word a little bit too much. But let's say they're really doing some very cool innovation that they're such a large company doing so many things that they need a way to focus that attention into something very crystal clear that other people can understand. And then when we come to the table with all of our media contacts, and I also write for lots of different publications, we have different access that they might have to get it in different ways that us coming to the media, they're not going to beg us for thousands and thousands of dollars on ads because we've developed relationships and partnerships through the years, as opposed to just some of these big dollar things. So that's really more on the corporate side. The smaller business might be more reliant on this kind of marketing because they might not necessarily have had all the resources that the large one does. So I think the small business often just kind of gets rated by marketer after marketer, and then marketers develop a relationship or a reputation, I would say, that their marketers are bad or whatever that means. So sometimes there's a lot of cleanup, sometimes there's trust issues and whatnot. But I think they have more to win because we're going to be getting all these different kinds of results. And interestingly, also in that regard, we could do some of the more foundational content that we're not usually brought into the fray. If a company's 100 years old, we didn't exist, right? So,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Do you have a preference?
No, I think that it comes down to how good a partner the other side is. So I've worked with some of the largest companies in the world, and they are just so much fun. Some of them are super wacky, have a great sense of humor. They're wonderful people, really solid team, great to work with. And then sometimes, and you know how corporate can get, corporate sometimes gets so stilted and so boxed in, and it's like, we know that we want you to be creative. However, can you please just make this look as boring as possible? And we didn't really need you in the first place. And so they can strangle the creativity out of a project and then also be like, well, why isn't everybody in the world wanting to pick this up in the media? It's like, because you made us make a corporate PowerPoint presentation, right? And also startups or small businesses can also be equally great or terrible to work with, right? So sometimes I think when people are like overly control freakish about it, or they don't trust us to be adults, I don't need adult babysitting, nor does anybody else that works for us. So I think that that's sort of a thing. Yeah, I think it's not really the size or shape, but it's the dedication and value of the team that looks at us to be a good accountability partner. And I saw that you flashed a question from Whitney. I missed what she said.
I did. I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to. I mean, it's a really insightful, answer. And what I'm hearing is that each and every time it comes down to the people.
Yeah,
it comes down to the people. It's not the brand. It's not the industry. You're certainly industry agnostic. So broad.
I can tell you something about industry that's a similar question, similar to what we just talked about with small versus big, if you want. So please. Sometimes, and it's fascinating, a big brand, a small brand, just let's talk about the industry. So there are cool industries and there are boring industries, right? But why is that? So what's a cool industry in your mind? Some people have their pet favorites. Some people like Apple, Starbucks, Patagonia. Usually it's some kind of customer facing, flashy, lots of money behind it, celebrities.
Yeah. Something you use, something you can tell your friends about, right? We don't talk a lot about using FedEx, right? Or UPS.
But we should. So here's the thing. So a lot of these flashy, gigantic budget consumer brands, things in apparel, things in music, things in entertainment, those things, they have endless dollars that are funding campaigns on it. So to stand out of the noise out of that category is tough stuff. And sometimes you just have to do like ridiculous things, like Liquid Death, like gets a bunch of dumb comments on the internet. And they're like, what the heck is this garbage? It's just water in a can. So what do? They make like a Spotify playlist of insults and turn them into songs. That's funny. Does it sell more? Maybe. I don't know. But you really have to jump completely out of your skin to another level. That's a terrible metaphor, but you have to go to another level to just be able to
disassociate, right?
There
to
you
be
go.
able to, right?
Thank you. Better words. Good.
You are welcome. So
Yes.
should we take a look at Whitney's
Let me
question?
just quickly. So
Please.
also, so let's say we're just talking about FedEx or just like a coffee cup or something.
Yes.
Things that are not as exciting, and a lot of marketing I feel like is completely uninspired and doesn't bother to try to get a lot of news media. I think that in the less exciting sectors, you can actually win a larger than life percentage of all of the voice that's out there by just trying the same thing that we're talking about. So there you go.
And almost sounds like in the what you call boring industries, it's a quieter room, and you can make more noise in a quieter room.
You can make more signal in a quieter room while everybody else is making noise. Yep.
I love that framing.
Quiet that noise. Right. Like if you're tuning in on a radio, like I'm an old guy or something. But people need to tune in. Nuance is everything on the internet.
Absolutely. It's a lot of static. Love that. Are we ready for Whitney's comment?
Oh, yeah.
She had a question. All right. Whitney asks, outside a marketing framework, what advice would you give for using visual thinking to persuade peers and internal stakeholders? Do you find the basics are still relevant to gain clarity and buy-in? I mean, Whitney's a woman after my own heart. I always think about, right, that persuasion and influence and the through line.
So Alina's already said this. We are visual learners and visual thinkers. We don't retain a lot of the written word. So I think there's a dichotomy of understanding that's out there in the world. We pretend that we are very sophisticated people that wear bow ties and top hats and live in England from a few hundred years ago or something. And we're very fancy, and we only read the finest stuff across the internet, and we only read perfectly reviewed 100-page sophisticated papers. As I put on my monocle or whatever, right? And that's not what we do. So we have like the totality of human history in our little phones and AI helping serve up answers. And what are we looking at? Cat videos or less, or as the kids call it, brain rot, right?
Yeah.
So what are we talking about? Sometimes we try to out-sophisticate and don't understand to distill stuff to a more simple level for the brain to take it in. Instead of talking over people's heads with complex jargon and making them feel stupid like an outsider, why would you torture your outsider mentality to your customer base? Maybe meet them where they are, recognize that they're humans, and make an emotional connection, and use storytelling and do it through visuals and have data to back all of this stuff up. So I think when you think about it like that and you show them the visuals, the persuasion starts happening within. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to add to that. Yes, absolutely. I work with folks and myself when I was in corporate, distilling a message to the most simple unit of measure that is so simple, right? We're not being fancy. We're saying exactly what is, cutting out the noise, getting to the juicy goodness of the actual thing that you need to know and nothing more. And so something that I used to do in presentations and I encourage clients to do is we would have like basically naked slides in the most essential information. If there's a visual, it is so simple. If there's a metric, it's one. Lots of blank space. Because sometimes the absence of information makes a pretty huge statement, right? The contrast, it helps tune out the noise and really hear what you talk about, the signal when you're tuning out all the extra that you don't need and you didn't need just to impress, just to make a point that you worked hard, right? What are you actually saying?
Right. You don't get $1 for every word that's on the
You
PowerPoint
don't.
slide.
You don't.
You
It's
get
not.
$1 for every word that you leave out of the PowerPoint slide.
Yes.
Imagine that you're a movie director and you have you're basing it off of a book and you have a screenplay and then you have an editor's cut, right? So you're chopping out stuff along the way to get to the minimum amount that's needed, not because we're taking shortcuts, but anything but. We're simplifying this in a way. Simple's not easy. They're different things. Simplicity matters so much in today's world. Or as the kids say again, say less, king. Right?
Say less, king.
Who knows what this guy's going to say?
Say less. It's absolutely true. Say less. Show more. Isn't that so true?
I wish people did.
Right? Absolutely. So I'm wondering, how does a company know? What are the symptoms that they need NowSourcing?
Well, I like to think about it in terms of a certain level of maturity in the marketing. So we like to come when the table is set. So if you don't have a website yet, maybe you're not ready for some super premium campaign. If you have just started to have blogs and other content through your socials, you're getting there. I think once you start to have a regular cadence of all the stuff that you're planning to do, but now you just need something that's a catalyst to get to the next level, which could be when there's a specific new product, new service, company launch, maybe you've just gotten a round of funding. But to that point, actually, we do plenty of stuff that's very evergreen and stands the test of time. So when people tie something only to a funding round or an election or the Olympics or talk like a pirate day or other things that everybody thinks, oh, wow, I'm going to be the only person that's talking about National Whatever Day. No, that's like one of the worst times to start driving the press crazy because everybody's pitching the same garbage. So it's harder to stand out because there's already more noise. But if you can control yourself a little and at least try to invite your mind to think about some field of view that could be evergreen, then you could have stuff instead of an ad that the second you stop paying the money is done. We've seen these things not just a few months later, but years later. I've seen stuff 10, 15 years later. People are discovering it like it's brand new. People feature it in different textbooks. 3-letter agencies call us up and want to use things for training. Wild stuff. And it never stops because it's just part of the internet already. And people continue to bring it back up. People quote different studies we've done within these things. So the longevity of this, I challenge you to find another piece of marketing that stands the test of time, maybe a book or something like that, but something that kind of competes in something that's not the size of a book generally does not last the test of time like this.
Right. Yeah. It takes a significant amount of time, years, for a visual like that to start to become obsolete, for the metrics to start changing in a meaningful way. Yeah, other than books.
With you that's 15 years old and you wouldn't even think that it was, unless I gave you some very specific time-based hints.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. So if someone is tuning in and they don't know if their message is landing, what might be one doable, simple thing that they could take and simplify or clarify?
So I would go back to what I said before about who are you actually marketing to? Are you marketing to yourself to give yourself a pat on the back and feel good? Or do you understand that your customer isn't you? They don't understand the industry to the expert level that you perform. So it's not that we're dumbing it down, it's that we're making it relatable in language that they will understand. And some people can fight me on this and say, well, what about like a highly technical industry? We're talking about high tech, blockchain, different things like that. Some of these things are pretty complicated. But if you can't explain something like I'm 5, are you truly an expert? So if you can't distill it, people don't want to feel confused. In the world of sales, there's a great line. A confused mind says no. So not only is somebody not going to tell you because they're embarrassed, they might not even know what's going on in their subconscious. And sometimes you just feel like something is off. Like sometimes when I see art or typography that's off, like I feel revulsion from it, right? And I'm not the only one. Maybe I'm more attuned to it because this is the stuff that I'm involved with night and day. But as long as you have two eyes and vision, you're having a similar lived experience that you're also forced to see terrible marketing and bad art and things that don't make sense, giant words, and taking such a leap of faith of understanding, assuming that people know all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So simplify, know your audience, speak to them, understand that you're speaking, you're doing it to connect with the other, not with self.
Right. And not make them feel dumb in the process to make yourself feel good.
Right. Meet them.
That's a lot of ego.
That's what?
It's ego. It's a lot of ego, in my opinion.
Yes. That is quite a bit of ego, right? It's a lot of, it's amazing how much breakdown in business is about an ego needing to die a little bit or shrink a little bit.
Ego death is great. Ego removes people from the world. I think people okay, look, sometimes you have to have like a good business ego and you have to have confidence in what you're portraying, but that's very different than I'm important, so I don't care how tone deaf it is, push it out to the internet. Maybe they don't say it like that, but it's dangerous.
It is. It is when it becomes, right? It becomes, it's interesting. We talk about leadership starts within and then you go without. The ego. The ego overshadows, it puts a lens and a filter and really a lid on the ability to see others, to understand what's needed. So yeah, absolutely. There's a huge difference between ego and confidence, faith in self, faith in mission, faith in, in what's being done and efficacy. So.
Yeah. And ego and confidence, like people really think that they're synonymous and they're not. They're very different.
Very, very different motivations.
Yes.
Very, very different drivers of the why behind each. Right.
Love that.
We could do this for hours.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. It's awesome to have you on. And I love the way that you explain what, the why, the how. You have a way of explaining it with such simplicity and authenticity, and in a way that I don't hear anyone else explain. That might be part of the secret sauce.
Yeah, I think you have to live it. I think that depending on how you understand expertise, right? So let's say you ascribe to the 10,000 hour rule, which again, to eat my own dog food here, I have to explain it instead of assume that people understand it. Like the explanation's in the name, but there's a theory of mastery of whatever subject you're doing in knowledge that you have to actually go through 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert. But another way to think about it is what level of expert is somebody? And this is something that is one level deeper in explanation that people don't think about. So think about what it takes to be like a 90% expert, like top 10 of the world, top 10. Every percentage that you continue to go and then just long tail like that last 1%, like each notch up from that is like as wide as the ocean. It's absurd how much more an expert one level more knows, right? So I think that just because this has been a practice for so many years of what we've been doing, we have the ability to really deeply understand the point of why it's being used. And you just continue to get better. You continue to understand how it plays out into the world. So everybody's like, well, you could just use AI now. And it's like, yeah, but sometimes AI can't tell time. So you can use a tool, but a person uses a tool. It's not sentient. So I find that, no, you really can't do this beyond a simplistic level. And nor can you do the whole bundle of it. You can't research it. You can't put all of the storyline together and the emotion. You can't necessarily do the visuals. And importantly, you can't connect that to media. And what also is interesting in today's world is people are searching a lot of stuff on the generative models. I don't think anywhere near as much as search, but it's growing. But this is a great signal for that too. So as much as people might think that it's irrelevant in today's world, it's very much alive and well. Even when you're scrolling on your phone, because these are very long visuals, you're scrolling right into it.
I very much appreciate that you brought AI and automation
Yeah.
into it, because it's very much a tool,
Right.
and being the one that tells the tool what to do and the direction to go in
Right.
is key. And connecting to humanity and feeling humanity, right? When you have something in your hand and it's handmade, it's made by a person,
Right.
it's premium. It's an
Sure
absolute
is.
premium, and it's becoming increasingly so. And so, sure, there's automation, but it's a person that's
Right.
crafting it, that's sewing it together,
That's right.
that's connecting the dots.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining me.
Hey, such a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll do it again.
I'm here for it. Sounds good.